The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, the maker of North America's #1 three-phase string inverter, with over 6 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS America product lineup includes three-phase string inverters ranging from 25 to 275 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 250-275, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. The 250-275 pairs well with CPS America's exceptional data communication, controls, and energy storage solutions. Go to chintpowersystems.com to find out more.
I haven't gone to the field in the past 4 years. And that is saying something, because it's also saving money from our perspective. So it means that I don't have to go to the field anymore with a very fancy PQ meter, which is, don't get me wrong, is one of the most useful pieces of information. But that says a lot that I, as the inverter manufacturer, I don't have to go into the field anymore with a fancy PQ or scope, or as often, because I have all of that information from the gateway's perspective.
Are you speeding the energy transition? Here at the Clean Power Hour, our host Tim Montague bring you the best in solar, batteries, and clean technologies every week. Want to go deeper into decarbonization? We do too. We're here to help you understand and command the commercial, residential, and utility solar, wind, and storage industries. So let's get to it. Together we can speed the energy transition.
Today on the Clean Power Hour, performance improvement of solar assets. I'm Tim Montague, your host. Check out all of our content at cleanpowerhour.com. Please give us a rating and a review on Apple and Spotify, and tell a friend about the show. Today, my guest is Faviola Angulo. She is the performance improvement engineer for CPS America, the #1 three-phase string inverter manufacturer in America. Welcome to the show, Faviola.
Hi, Tim. Thank you very much for having me.
I'm very excited to finally have you on the show. You have many fans out there in the solar industry. I see them on LinkedIn giving you a shout out. And what you do is largely behind the scenes there in Dallas at CPS headquarters. But before we dig into performance improvement and performance monitoring, tell me and my listeners a little bit about yourself and how you came to solar.
Sure. I started with CPS about 6 years ago. I had just graduated from my master's in electrical systems, and I was like in that discovery journey. Again, I have worked with electrical systems in the past. I was mostly focusing in oil and gas in the industry, and then I wanted to make the switch because you start seeing the trends of the industry. And then also it's like I wanted to focus on something that I would feel align more with my values of wanting to improve the state of the world, wanted to do something cleaner for the planet in terms of energy. So I started interviewing some places, and then I think destiny thing, I got to CPS. It was this very tiny office at the beginning, very few people, and I just loved the environment. And it was like a new challenge that I wanted to get into because I have never gotten into much solar. I haven't read that much into it either. So it was something very spiked my curiosity. And that's how I became involved with solar and the whole string inverter world.
Cool. I like to say that solar isn't rocket science, but a three-phase string inverter is a pretty technical device. There's a lot going on there. So I look forward to learning more about FlexOM. That's your performance monitoring system. And I guess at a high level, why don't you paint a picture for our listeners, though? What is your job at CPS?
Yeah, for sure. My job at CPS right now is to make sure that our customers are satisfied with the production that they get out of their units, that their system operating up to capacity, and that, of course, again, in operation within the expectations that they have. So as you mentioned, my job is a lot of behind the scenes, talking to different technicians, project engineers, O&M personnel, trying again to make their life as easy as I can in the whole term of the operation of the inverters. And then again, helping with as much as I can within the operation of the system as a whole.
And you have some tens of thousands of projects now in the U.S., which means maybe hundreds of thousands of individual inverters. That's a lot of data that's flowing into the Network Operations Center there, the NOC in Dallas. How do you triage that information, and how proactively are you even able to let customers know that there is a problem with their system if they are not aware of a problem?
Of course. So we are very lucky in the sense of we have projects that are working wonderfully, that haven't had an issue in years. And then we have other projects that have more challenges that we have to work through some time. So what we have with our Flex monitoring system is we have dedicated our real-time alarms, and then those get filtered by the priority of the alarm. So we have designated alarms that get to my email, and then when I see them coming, is way we do reactionary mode, and we go to the customer and we let them know, hey, this inverter is having such and such alarm. We believe that the best course of action is either let me do firmware, let me do setting adjustments, let's shut down the unit and let me send you a replacement. That is the usual course of actions that we follow. And then we also have customers that have understood that, yes, we are still a relatively small team. And then they have also applied what we can provide them from the FlexOM portal into their own type of monitoring systems. And then they just send me emails if I haven't seen them already, or if I have them, let them know. So it has been like a very teams unification in between the customers and us in terms of the monitoring and the operation of the projects.
I imagine the FlexOM platform is giving you and your asset owners some kind of a green, yellow, red indicator. But why don't you walk us through how the FlexOM platform handles information from the field, and then what are some of the steps that asset owners or CPS might take in response?
For sure. So the FlexOM has or uses RS-485 data that is coming directly from the field, from the inverter itself. So what it does is that we daisy chain all of our units. We have 32 inverters per FlexOM. That's usually the limit. We gather data from the units using, again, RS-485 data. It's sent out into our server and then codified to be presented in the portal as we see it daily. So we have modes of operations as any other unit. So we have running, faulted, and then standby or derated. And then we also started color coding that just to make it easier, a little bit easier visually. And then, as you mentioned, we have tens of thousands of sites, which makes it hard. I wish I have more time in the day so I can look at everybody. But what we do is I prioritize from customers that I know have had challenges either by the unit perspective or by the site conditions perspective. And then we dedicate our days into looking those until we figure out what is wrong with it. And then we can call them, okay, this case is closed. Then we can move on to the next one. We also have our hotline, which is a very good access in the terms of CPS, because we don't have machines answering or non-technical people answering the phones. All of our technical personnel in the hotline are either engineers that are fresh out of college, or we have technicians that have had 15, 10, 20 years of experience. So you always getting someone technical. And then we also don't have like several steps of troubleshooting. We usually have only one or two levels. Either they solve it at the technical level with the person in the hotline, or if it's something more complicated, then they just transfer it to me or any other of our engineers, and then that's where it stops. That's where we usually solve the problem. So we are very happy with ourselves in the terms of we try to solve everything as fast as we can, and then we don't make our customer wait unnecessarily. That being said, we are also people. Again, we are real people. We don't have machine answering. So sometimes some things do get lost in email or in calls. So we just ask for a little bit of leniency or just patience or just a callback. Hey, if you haven't answered me within the day, just call me again and I will call you back.
I think this is a very important point, that you're actually reaching a human being in real time to help you dial into whatever issue you're having, whether you're commissioning a project or trying to get a project back online. And Chint is definitely differentiating itself by offering very good customer service. You have to have good technology as well. So it's a both and, I like to say. So if I'm an asset owner or developer, I'm thinking about owning and operating ultimately gigawatts of solar facilities, what are some of the considerations I have as an asset owner that I may not think about because I don't know all the ins and outs of the FlexOM solution? But when you're talking to asset owners about Flex, what are some of the selling points in your mind?
One of the first things is going to be the capability of having control over the unit. So think about the FlexOM as a controller of the system. I have access to the whole Modbus mapping of the inverter, meaning that I can change all of the settings remotely, all the settings that I need remotely. I can curtail the unit. I can change the power factor. If there is any given alarm that I can actually reset remotely, I can do that remotely too. So one of the biggest selling points of the gateway is going to be to reduce truck rolls, or at least unnecessary truck rolls. So let's say that you are an asset owner and then you have an inverter that has faulted. You can just give me a call before sending someone to the field. And then I can let you know exactly what is wrong with that unit. And I can tell you, hey, the unit doesn't have AC voltage. It might be the breaker. Or, hey, the unit is showing AC voltage, but then the values don't align, so you might have a loss phase. Or, hey, this unit is completely dead. Let me start a replacement before you even go to the site. Just wait for me to send you the replacement, and then you go there with the replacement already. So it's about minimizing the cost that the operators have to face daily with unnecessary truck rolls. That is one of the biggest selling points. My second one would be
Go ahead.
The second one would be like the type of information that you get from the gateway. As I mentioned, many of the monitoring systems are very focused on what is happening at the POI. But then, yes, that is what is getting you the revenue and everything, but also you have to focus into what is creating or what is compromising that revenue, which is the individual inverters. So if you have an inverter that is not behaving the way that it should be, you also want the most amount of data so you can troubleshoot that unit specifically, or units. So that is another very good selling point of the gateway, the type of information that you get out of it.
I'm curious, Brian is a little famous for saying that the inverter is the one piece of equipment that is guaranteed to fail eventually in a solar facility if you leave it online long enough. And that's not a weakness. All inverters are going to fail. They're doing this heavy lifting. I like to say they're the heart of a solar array. But when you think about ways that CPS is facilitating greater value, right? You talked about reducing truck rolls. Okay. I saw recently that the average truck roll is costing at least $1,000. So that's real money when a company rolls a truck. And if they're doing it out of necessity, that's great, right? If they're able to do something and solve a problem. But if it's a false alarm, or as you said, the inverter is already failed, they might be rolling a truck for no reason until they have a replacement part. But what else is CPS doing from a technical perspective with Flex that our listeners would be keen to know? Because I think there are many listeners here who aren't necessarily O&M managers or technicians. Certainly they're among my audience, but for others, what else from a technical perspective is unique about Flex?
Let me put it into this perspective. When I started on CPS, I was traveling probably once a month or so, doing troubleshooting in the field, going with my scope, with my PQ meter, with my meters, to look into the unit physically on the field. And that would occur once or twice a month. Once we were able to fully develop the Flex to its what we believe is a full capability right now, I haven't gone to the field in the past 4 years. And that is saying something, because it's also saving money from our perspective. So it means that I don't have to go to the field anymore with a very fancy PQ meter, which is, don't get me wrong, is one of the most useful pieces of information. But that says a lot that I, as the inverter manufacturer, I don't have to go into the field anymore with a fancy PQ or scope, or as often, because I have all of that information from the gateway's perspective. And that has been one of the biggest breaking points for us. Like, all of the information that I need, I can get from there. All of the data that I will gather from any other fancy machine, I will get from my flex, like in my day-to-day. There are elevated issues or more complicated problems that do require a more sophisticated piece of equipment like a PQ meter, but that hasn't been my day-to-day since 4 years ago. And again, that's saying something. Another anecdote that I have is, so a couple of years ago, whenever you were doing a witness test or pre-commissioning or co-commissioning with the utility, many of the utilities will want to see the settings that were included into the unit. And then that will mean that you will have to do an inspection in the field. And oftentimes, I don't really know why, but inspections are done either in a very hot weather or in very cold weather. So people is not in their best mood at that point. So what we have found is that we can do inspections remotely as well. So I will talk to the EPCs or to the installers and then to the utility, and let's get into a Zoom meeting. Let's get into a Teams meeting. Let me share my screen. Let me show you what I can do remotely. Let me show you all of the settings of the embedded remotely. And I can do it from the comfort of my office and then their cars, their office, or whatever. And they don't have to walk the field anymore. And we build like that trust of, okay, if we find anything remotely within the settings of the unit, I tell them, okay, let's take a second. Let me broadcast all of the settings to all of the embedders, and it's fixed in a second. So that is something that we have been able to create with different utilities across the country, and they love it. Because again, no one wants to be in the middle of the snow or very hot weather inspecting embedders with installers that might not know all of the insides of the unit. So they might have to go back and forth looking settings. So now they don't have to do that. They have me doing it remotely because I know where everything on the embedded is, so I don't have to go back and forth. We can just see through it a couple minutes, and then everybody goes about their day to finish witness tests or whatever they have to do.
I think about how variable conditions are in the field as well on a daily basis, right? Some days are cold, some days are hot, some days are wet, some days are cloudy, some are sunny. And so the inverter is doing this constant ramping up and ramping down. And then it has to discern from all that information whether or not the inverter is functioning properly, and then convey that to the NOC and do with thousands and thousands of strings worth of information. The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, the maker of North America's #1 three-phase string inverter, with over 6 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS America product lineup includes three-phase string inverters ranging from 25 to 275 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 250-275, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. The 250-275 pairs well with CPS America's exceptional data communication, controls, and energy storage solutions. Go to chintpowersystems.com to find out more. I'm just curious, like, how have you seen Chint's ability to A, read the data accurately, and then B, how does that work in terms of getting the data to the NOC and then processing that information?
For sure. So I have had multiple instances where a system, let's say, loses a phase. And then depending upon the conditions of the transformer and the project, whenever you lose a phase, you might not see it from the voltage perspective. So your voltage might be completely fine or looked completely fine. And then you have owners telling you, hey, or I have had owners telling me, hey, Faviola, all of my inverters are damaged. None of them are coming online. Is what is going on. I have AC voltage, I checked it. And then it takes me going into, let me take a second, let me go and check the harmonic distortion of the unit. And then you will see that the voltage harmonic distortion is extremely high. And then you will say, okay, then this means that you have a lost phase. Yes, you might see all of your voltage because it's being regenerated by something else, but you still have a problem that you have to address.
When you say a lost phase, you mean from the grid or?
From the grid perspective, yes.
I see.
Yeah, so then it takes them going to the field and say, I did have one of my fuses was blown, or I had a X and Y issue with my transformer that I couldn't see before. And again, it's like from the surface level, everything was fine, but then you have to look deeper. You also, it's using a little bit of logic. It's okay, not all the inverters in a project, again, because these are string inverters, yes, they interact within each other, but they are also individual machines. So the probability of all of them faulting at the same time for the exact same reason is very little. So we have to look below the surface to see what could be happening to all of the units. Why are they not responding? So the loss of phase example is very good because, again, it's like everything in the surface level looks fine. So you have to go deeper using the knock center. It's okay. I have my data analyst take a look to all the distortion within the units, all the noise, and then they let me know, hey, 1204, the harmonic distortion shoot very high, and then the inverter's faulted. Okay, that means that there's something happening to the system at that time. And that's how we usually respond to these problems. Sometimes it's, hey, my inverter is not operating, but then everything is fine. It's just giving me something like an isolation error. So then it's going us using the Flex Gateway to take a look at the actual isolation reading that is coming out of the unit. And then I can tell customers, hey, your detection value is too low or is too high, or we're having nonce stripping, let's change values here and there. It's an extremely useful tool.
And what are some of the other common problems that asset owners might either really have or think they have? What are some of the common presenting problems that you're dealing with on a daily basis?
One of the most common issues that we have been having lately is because as we are moving forward into IEEE 1547 2018 requirements, you have more controllers involved into the smart response of the inverter. So you have controllers like volt bar control, frequency watts control, volt watts control, and then you have to make sure that all of those are interacting within each other and that they are not creating problems for each other. For example, I have a lot of customers that come in and tell me, hey, I'm seeing a reduced output in my inverters, but then they are not aware that the utility asked them to have volt bar enabled. And then their voltage is riding too high, so the inverter has to compensate more reactive power. So they start losing active power. And then it takes me telling them, okay, let's look into our options. Can I enable the headroom capacity of the unit? Because one good thing that CPS inverters have is that we offer that for some of our units, we offer that headroom capacity. For example, in a 125, we can take it from 125 kVA to 132 kVA. So that gives you that headroom. If you have to open, or if you have to give more compensation into the field, then you open that headroom capacity and you don't compromise active power, at least so fast. We can, of course, we can only go so far, but again, it's give you more room into not losing your actual generation.
Interesting. I don't really understand that headroom factor. Why is that important to have that headroom?
It is very important because, again, especially with the way that the utilities and the way that the lines are behaving right now, you have more unbalanced loads or capacity banks of many factors that are going to influence the line behavior as it relates to solar. So one thing that utilities are doing right now is they're realizing that, yes, inverters can compensate a lot of reactive power. So they're using that to their advantage point of, let me not like adjust or fix some of the problems that I have in my line, but let me have the solar system compensate with that reactive power. So again, it's like we can only compensate so far before you start losing active power, but then giving you that headroom capacity, it allows you to provide more compensation into the grid without losing your active power, which is at the head what is going to give you money or generation. So to put it into simple, for example, in a 60 kilowatt, whenever you have the inverter set to 60 kilowatt, 60 kVA, and then you have a utility that is requesting a power factor of 95, then at some point you are going to compromise active power generation because you have to get those bars from somewhere. So when I said, okay, let's take the inverter from 60 kVA to 66 kVA, then I'm telling the owner that I can compensate that extra kVAR without compromising their active power production. So it's a very good function to have so you don't lose unnecessary active power generation.
Okay. When it comes to performance engineering or security, are there other features about Flex that you'd like to highlight?
For sure. Again, so as we have mentioned before, it's like it gives me a wide variety of information pertaining to the unit. But then again, it's also in terms of security. Let's say that you see something, or let's say that the utility gives you, make a better example. So you don't have a power management controller. So you don't have anything to curtail the active power if something happens into the grid side. So you can call us if we have the Flex Gateway and say, hey, the utility had requested me to shut down my power or curtail my production by X amount, but I don't have someone to go into the field until tomorrow. So I can go in remotely and then curtail the capacity of the unit or simply shut down the units until you can get someone into the field to do whatever you need to do per the utility request. Again, in other terms of cybersecurity and stuff, is we have the protection levels of each system. So we have the admin of the system, but then again, within our admin of the system, we also divide it in between people. For example, I have my own dedicated login, same as everybody else in the company, and then same as everybody else that we give access. And the way that we do that, the reason that we do that is because we have something that we call the audit log. Basically, whenever we go into the portal and check that audit log, we can see any change that have been made by anybody in the lifetime of that project. If I made a change, it's going to be recorded at that audit log. So it also creates, again, accountability and responsibility from our sides. We never do setting changes or firmware changes without previous authorization from the customer. So it's also a way of, our way of protecting ourselves in some way of, if there is confusion of what happened to a unit, we can come back into that log and say, hey, these are all the changes that have been performed into the inverter in the lifetime of the unit. This was done or this wasn't done. So it's a good, again, function for both the owner and ourselves.
As commercial solar grows, these projects, commercial and small utility and now utility, they're getting bigger, the inverters are getting bigger, the projects are more complex. How do you see FlexOM's architecture evolving to meet those future demands?
Let me tell you that the FlexOM Assist right now is a very tiny piece of equipment, but it's so complex in what it is. We have to move with the industry as it relates. For example, we have to compete. So there are other new requirements. Okay, check the Modbus health on my system. So having the ability of actually detecting the amount of times that the data wasn't pulled correctly, or that the system didn't respond as expected. Or, for example, you also have other expectations from utilities now where they want to have control into the system. So you're basically adding their controller, the Flex Gateway, and then the inverters or whatever other thing that you have in the middle. So whenever you have so many controllers into the system, you also have to create a sequence of response. And then the FlexOM or any other system or SCADA or whatever that you have has to be able to respond up to the expectation of the master controller, basically. Developing the gateway, I think we are still on track to come up with more solutions to be able to respond to new controllers that are coming out into the field and then their necessity for bandwidth or power rate response.
I'd like to circle back to something you said early on. You were new to the solar industry, I think, when you went to work at Chint, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here you are 6 years later, still at Chint. What should others know about that, like the culture that Brian and other leaders at Chint are creating?
For sure. It's like seeing it myself, the way that the job market has been evolving lately. You don't see that many people that stays within a company for so long. So that has to represent something. From my side is that sense of like collaboration that we get within each other, and then trust that we form within each other. I love my coworkers. And then again, that sense of being able to express yourself or say whatever that you need to say to them, that says something, that is important. And again, it's like Brian has done an excellent job of cultivating that culture of being able to speak up, being able, whenever you believe that there's not something that is not flowing the way that should be flowing, is, hey, let me know, tell me. Having that open dialogue and not creating unnecessary walls has been something amazing for us. And then again, like that thing of being able to just collaborate, laugh, talk, being able to express yourself, and then, but also have the responsibility that you have someone backing you up. That if I'm in a meeting and then someone is being disrespectful or something like that, then I'm gonna have one of my coworkers or something come back or have my back. That is not something that you get all the time. So it speaks volumes about the culture that we have here.
Another very unique thing that Chint does is you host an annual Innovation Day at your HQ there in Dallas. What could an asset owner, an engineer, a developer, or an EPC look forward to learning at Innovation Day, which is April 2nd? You can reach out to the team at events at CPS America. And but yeah, I'm curious what you think is the benefit of customers coming to you guys on site for that day. It's a very fun event.
It is a very fun event. I think that the biggest takeaway that customers have is, again, that we are real people and that we are knowledgeable in what we do. That we are knowledgeable engineers that work every day with their products, with our products, to understand and improve. That we are not perfect, but we are working every day towards being better. When you come here, you can see our lab. You can see all of the investment that we have put, not only monetarily, but also in time, to have the best equipment that we can, the best troubleshooting that we can provide. So that is the takeaway that customers can get when they come here, that they can see the NOC center that we created, the people that we have working in there. So it's just having the takeaway of the people that we have here, and then what we have created to provide the best product that we can.
That email again is events@chintpower.com. The website is chintpowersystems.com. But you can just email that email address to see if there's any room. I know that it is largely sold out at this time, but maybe there's a few seats left. Faviola, I want to thank you for coming on the show. How can our listeners reach out to you?
Yeah, you can reach me out at my email is faviola.angulo@chintpower.com, or through my phone number that has been highly exposed right now. Everybody has it. So yeah, but it's give me grace. If you send me an email or send me a text, I will reply to you. I take a lot of pride of I reply everything. Just give me a little bit of time.
Check out all of our content at cleanpowerhour.com. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I love hearing from my listeners. Tell a friend about the show, and please give us a rating and a review on Apple or Spotify. I want to thank Faviola Angulo, the Performance Improvement Engineer for CPS America, for coming on the show today. Let's grow solar.
Thank you, Tim.
The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, the maker of North America's #1 three-phase string inverter, with over 6 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS America product lineup includes three-phase string inverters ranging from 25 to 275 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 250-275, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. The 250-275 pairs well with CPS America's exceptional data communication, controls, and energy storage solutions. Go to chintpowersystems.com to find out more.